They floated just beyond the law, lit up like palaces in the Pacific darkness, and made fortunes while the coastline watched. If you're fascinated by the stories of power, corruption, and the men who built empires in the shadows of American history, make sure to follow, because this story changes everything you thought you knew about the California coast. Long Beach, California. Summer 1928. A lumber schooner named Johanna Smith sits at anchor 3 miles off the coast. The ship was launched in 1917. Now it holds 13 gaming tables and 38 slot machines. Water taxis shuttle customers from shore. Albert Howard owns the vessel. He paid to convert the cargo hold into a casino. The ship rocks gently in the Pacific swells. Music drifts across the water toward land. California law prohibits gambling. Federal prohibition bans alcohol, but 3 miles offshore both are legal. This is international waters. The 3-mile limit marks the end of U.S. jurisdiction. It is measured by the range of a cannon shot. Beyond that line, no state trooper can arrest you. No federal agent can seize your liquor. The Johanna Smith opens for business. Customers line up at the Long Beach pier. They pay for water taxi rides. The boats make constant trips. 10 minutes out, 10 minutes back, all day. All night the ship proves profitable. Other vessels appear along the coast. By 1929, a second ship arrives. The Tango anchors 5 miles west of Venice Pier. The owner is Tony Cornero. He is 30 years old, short, stocky. Everyone calls him Tony Cornero. He wears expensive suits and wide-brimmed hats. He made his first fortune during Prohibition. Cornero ran rum from Canada and Mexico to California. He loaded ocean-going ships with cases of whiskey. Then he transferred the cargo to smaller boats. They landed on remote beaches. Malibu was a favorite drop point, lightly populated. Close to Los Angeles, high cliffs hid the operation from passing cars. In 1926, Coast Guard cutters caught Cornero off San Pedro with 1,000 cases of whiskey. He escaped custody. He continued smuggling for 2 more years. In 1928, federal agents arrested him again. He was convicted of prohibition violations and tariff crimes. McNeil Island Federal Penitentiary in Washington became his home for 2 years. While Cornero sat in prison, the gambling ship industry expanded. By 1930, a fleet of vessels dotted the Southern California coast. The Monte Carlo operated off Coronado near San Diego. La Playa floated off Santa Monica. The Rose Isle anchored between Long Beach and Santa Monica. Local police tried various methods to shut them down. All attempts failed. The ships remained beyond state jurisdiction. The Olympics came to Los Angeles in 1932. Visitors flooded the city. Many were foreigners unaccustomed to prohibition. They found the gambling ships. Business exploded. Water taxis ran constantly. The ships advertised in newspapers. They used skywriting. Some installed searchlights visible for miles. Prohibition ended in 1933. Alcohol became legal again, but California still banned gambling. The ships kept operating. They served drinks and ran card games. They offered roulette, craps, slot machines. Some provided entertainment. Dance bands played on upper decks. Women in evening gowns mixed with men in tuxedos and workmen's clothes. A tuxedo was not required. Neither was wealth. A taxi ride and a few dollars for chips got anyone aboard. Law enforcement officials grew frustrated. District attorneys in Los Angeles and surrounding counties filed charges. The ship operators fought every case. They argued the vessels sat in international waters. California had no authority there. Judges agreed. Cases were dismissed. Some ships had troubles unrelated to law enforcement. In 1929, a Long Beach policeman was murdered. The killers fled to a gambling ship. They sought refuge where police could not follow. The incident made headlines. Public pressure increased. Still, the ships remained anchored offshore. The Johanna Smith caught fire in 1932. The wooden hull burned for hours. The ship sank. No one was charged with arson. Some suspected rival operators. Others thought it was an insurance scheme. The ship settled to the bottom off Long Beach. The Monte Carlo survived longer. The concrete-hulled ship operated off Coronado through 1936. On New Year's Day 1937, a winter storm struck. High winds snapped the anchor chains. The ship crashed onto Coronado Beach. Waves pounded it for days. It broke apart. Pieces of the wreck remain visible at low tide. Cornero left prison in 1930. He returned to California. He invested in gambling ships. The details of his early partnerships are unclear. By 1938, he made his move. He purchased a four-masted cargo ship launched in 1887. It had sailed for 51 years. Cornero spent months refitting it. He installed luxurious furnishings, crystal chandeliers, carpeted gaming rooms, a full bar with brass fixtures, a restaurant, a stage for live entertainment. He renamed it the Rex. The ship opened on May 5, 1938. It anchored 3 miles off Santa Monica Beach. The precise position was measured and marked. Cornero advertised heavily. Newspaper ads ran daily. Skywriting spelled out the ship's name above Los Angeles. At night, neon lights blazed on the ship's superstructure. They could be seen up and down the coast. The message was clear. The Rex was open for business. Water taxis departed from Santa Monica Pier. Round-trip fare was 25 cents. The ride took 10 minutes each way. The taxis ran 24 hours. Some days they made hundreds of trips. The Rex could accommodate 3,000 customers at once. On busy nights, it came close to that number. The ship had no engine. It could not flee if authorities approached. But Cornero believed it sat beyond their reach. He was wrong. Earl Warren was elected California Attorney General in 1938. He won both the Republican and Democratic primaries, a landslide victory. Warren had served as Alameda County District Attorney. He built a reputation fighting gambling and corruption. As Attorney General, he focused on the gambling ships. They represented everything he opposed: open defiance of state law, corruption of police and officials, cash flowing to organized crime. Warren knew the ships claimed to be in international waters. He began researching California's boundaries. The Rex earned massive sums. Reports indicated $200,000 per month. Adjusted for inflation, nearly $4 million per month today. The money flowed through Los Angeles like water. Police officers received cash payments to ignore certain activities. Prosecutors dropped cases. Judges ruled favorably. Elected officials took contributions. The corruption network touched every level of government. Warren studied California's Constitution. Article 3, Section 1 defined the state's boundaries. It included all bays along and adjacent to the coast. State jurisdiction extended 3 miles from those boundaries into the Pacific Ocean. The key question became, was Santa Monica Bay legally a bay? If Santa Monica Bay qualified as a bay under California law, the state's boundaries would extend to a line drawn from Point Dume in Malibu to Point Vicente in Palos Verdes. That line sat almost 12 miles off Santa Monica Beach. The 3-mile limit would begin from that line, not from the shore. California's jurisdiction would reach 15 miles offshore. The Rex would be well within state waters. In March 1939, Cornero was indicted for operating a gambling establishment. His lawyers filed motions to dismiss. They argued California lacked jurisdiction. The California Court of Appeal heard the case. In March 1939, the court ruled in Cornero's favor. The judges reasoned that a bay must be partially surrounded by land and provide wind protection. Santa Monica Bay failed both tests. The court dismissed the indictments. Warren immediately petitioned the California Supreme Court. He refined his argument. He presented historical evidence. Spanish explorers Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo in 1542 and Sebastián Vizcaíno in 1603 both referred to Santa Monica as an ensenada, the Spanish word for bay. Later historians also called it a bay. Warren argued this established historical precedent. He also contended that Santa Monica Bay provided wind protection. The Rex itself proved this point. The ship had anchored in the same location for over a year. That it lacked an engine. If the waters offered no protection, the ship would have drifted away or been destroyed by storms. Its continued presence demonstrated the bay's protective qualities. The Supreme Court scheduled oral arguments. The case would determine the fate of all gambling ships in California waters. Warren did not wait for the court's decision. On July 28, 1939, he took action under civil law. He filed public nuisance claims against 4 gambling ships: the Rex off Santa Monica, the Texas also off Santa Monica, the Tango off Long Beach, the Showboat off Long Beach. The claims argued that even if the ships sat in international waters, they constituted public nuisances affecting California residents. The state had authority to abate such nuisances by any means necessary. Warren served cease and desist notices on all 4 ships. The operators ignored them. They continued business as usual. Water taxis kept running, customers kept coming, money kept flowing. Warren prepared a raid. He assembled a force of 250 state and local law enforcement officers. He kept the operation secret. Officers were not told their destination until the last minute. Warren feared leaks. He knew the corruption network extended into law enforcement. Any advance warning would reach the ships, August 1st, 1939. Afternoon, Warren gave the order. The officers boarded a collection of boats, state vessels, local police boats, commandeered fishing boats. The flotilla headed out from Santa Monica and Long Beach. Warren stayed on shore at a Santa Monica beach club. He watched through binoculars. The boats reached the ships. 3 vessels surrendered immediately. Officers boarded the Tango, Texas, and Showboat. They smashed gaming equipment with sledgehammers. Roulette wheels went into the ocean. Slot machines were thrown overboard. Craps tables were broken apart and burned. The raids were methodical, thorough, complete. The wrecks refused to surrender. Cornero stood on deck. He had 600 customers aboard. His crew manned water hoses. High-pressure seawater blasted the approaching boats. The raiders retreated out of range. They circled the wrecks. They waited. Cornero spoke to the customers through a megaphone. He assured them the ship had plenty of provisions, food, water, fuel for the generators. He would not surrender. California had no jurisdiction. The raid was illegal. He would fight it in court. The customers grew nervous. Some wanted to leave. Cornero allowed water taxis to evacuate anyone who wished to go. Most departed that evening. By nightfall, only Cornero and his crew remained aboard. They barricaded themselves. The raiding boats maintained a perimeter. The standoff continued. Days passed. News photographers circled in boats. They took pictures. Newspapers ran front-page stories. Battle of Santa Monica Bay became the headline. The entire nation followed the story. Sir bootlegger defying the state attorney general in the middle of the ocean. Warren coordinated from shore. He consulted with lawyers. The Supreme Court had not yet ruled on the jurisdiction question, but the civil nuisance claim gave him authority to act. He ordered the blockade to continue. No supplies would reach the wrecks. No one would leave or board. Cornero made statements to reporters who approached in boats. He called Warren a tyrant. He said California was violating international law. He would never surrender. The wrecks would remain anchored forever if necessary. 8 days into the standoff, Cornero changed his mind. On August 9, 1939, he emerged from below deck. He called to the blockading boats. He was ready to surrender. He claimed he needed a haircut. Some reporters believed him. Others thought he ran out of supplies or lost his nerve. Warren's officers boarded the wrecks. They arrested Cornero. They destroyed all remaining gambling equipment. They documented everything. Photographs were taken. Evidence was collected. The wrecks was seized. The Battle of Santa Monica Bay ended. Cornero was taken ashore. He faced multiple charges: criminal gambling charges, civil nuisance violations, contempt of court for ignoring the cease and desist order. 3 months later, November 1939, the California Supreme Court issued its decision. The court unanimously agreed with Warren. Santa Monica Bay qualified as a bay under California's Constitution. The state's boundaries extended to the Point Dume-Point Vicente line. The 3-mile limit began from that line. California had jurisdiction over all 4 gambling ships. They had operated illegally the entire time. The decision destroyed the gambling ship industry in California. Ships could theoretically anchor 15 miles offshore, but that distance made water taxi service impractical. The ride would take too long. The seas were too rough. Customers would not make the journey. Cornero settled the civil proceedings. He paid fines. The wrecks was seized for unpaid taxes. The ship passed to government ownership. Cornero left California. He moved to Las Vegas. In 1944, he opened a casino. The business operated successfully for 2 years. In 1946, Cornero tried again with gambling ships. He purchased another vessel. He prepared to anchor it offshore. Federal authorities intervened. New legal barriers had been erected. Los Angeles County Superior Court had issued injunctions against water taxi operations. The injunctions prohibited any vessel from transporting passengers to gambling ships. Without water taxis, the business model collapsed. Congress also took action. California Senator William Noland introduced federal legislation. The bill prohibited water taxis to gambling ships in U.S. territorial waters. It made transporting passengers to such vessels a federal crime. Congress passed the bill. President Harry Truman signed it into law on April 27, 1948. The Gambling Ship Act ended all remaining operations. Any vessel operating primarily for gambling in U.S. territorial waters was illegal. Transporting passengers to such vessels was illegal. Operating water taxis for such purposes was illegal. The law had teeth. Federal prosecutors could seize vessels. They could imprison operators. They could fine water taxi companies. The risk became too great. The gambling ships disappeared from California waters. Cornero made one more attempt to fight the law. His lawyers filed challenges. They argued the federal government exceeded its authority. Courts rejected the arguments. The Gambling Ship Act was upheld. Cornero's vessel never opened for business. He sold it at a loss. He returned to Las Vegas. The city was growing. Legal gambling attracted customers from across the country. Cornero saw opportunity. He began planning a massive casino. He envisioned the largest resort on the Las Vegas Strip. He called it the Stardust. Construction began in 1954. Cornero borrowed heavily. He sold shares. He took on partners. The project consumed him. The building rose from the desert, 13 stories. A massive casino floor, a showroom for big-name entertainers, a swimming pool, luxury rooms. It would be the crown jewel of Las Vegas. Cornero never saw it open. On July 31, 1955, he was shooting craps at the Desert Inn Casino in Las Vegas. He collapsed at the table, a heart attack. He died within minutes. He was 56 years old. The Stardust opened 2 weeks later without him. His partners took over. Rumors circulated about mob involvement. Some suggested Cornero was murdered. An autopsy confirmed a heart attack. No evidence of foul play was found. In 1948, 2 years before his death from a heart attack, Cornero survived another violent incident, an assassination attempt at his Beverly Hills home. Unknown assailants opened fire. Cornero was seriously wounded. He spent weeks in the hospital. The shooting was never solved. No arrests were made. Cornero refused to cooperate with investigators. He told police he saw nothing, heard nothing, knew nothing. The case went cold. Earl Warren's career took a different trajectory. The gambling ship raids boosted his political standing. In 1942, he ran for California governor. He campaigned on his anti-corruption record. He cited the Battle of Santa Monica Bay as evidence of his determination to enforce the law. He won in a landslide. He became governor of California in January 1943. Warren was re-elected governor in 1946. Another landslide victory. He became one of California's most popular governors. His approval crossed party lines. Democrats and Republicans both supported him. In 1948, Thomas Dewey selected Warren as his vice presidential running mate on the Republican ticket. They ran against Harry Truman. The campaign seemed promising. Polls predicted a Dewey victory. The Chicago Tribune printed the famous headline, "Dewey defeats Truman," before the results were final. But Truman won. Warren returned to California. He was re-elected governor again in 1950, an unprecedented third term. No California governor had achieved this before. In 1953, President Dwight Eisenhower nominated Warren to be Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. The Senate confirmed him. Warren led the Supreme Court for 16 years. He presided over landmark decisions. Brown versus Board of Education ended school segregation. Miranda versus Arizona established the rights of criminal suspects. Loving v. Virginia struck down bans on interracial marriage. The Warren Court transformed American law. It expanded civil rights. It protected individual liberties. It checked government power. Warren retired in 1969. He died in 1974. He is remembered as one of the most influential Supreme Court justices in American history. Few recall his role in shutting down the gambling ships. But that battle shaped his career. It demonstrated his willingness to challenge powerful interests. It showed his skill at using legal strategy to achieve his goals. It built his reputation as a corruption fighter. The Rex itself served in World War II. The government converted it back to a cargo ship. It carried supplies across the Atlantic. In 1943, a German U-boat torpedoed it off the African coast. The ship sank. Crew members survived. The wreck remains on the ocean floor. The gambling ships left a legacy beyond their brief existence. They proved that individuals would find ways around laws they disagreed with. They demonstrated the power of jurisdictional disputes. They showed how corruption could spread when large sums of illegal money flowed through a system. They foreshadowed Las Vegas. The Rex anticipated the Strip's combination of gambling, entertainment, luxury, and spectacle. Cornero himself made that connection when he moved to Nevada. The ships also influenced popular culture. Raymond Chandler referenced them in his novels. The film Lady from Shanghai featured a gambling ship. Martin Scorsese used the story as inspiration for his film Cape Fear. The gambling ships represented a particular moment in American history. Prohibition had ended, but many vices remained illegal. People wanted to gamble. Entrepreneurs found ways to provide the service. Government eventually closed the loopholes. By 1950, open vice began to decline in Los Angeles. The flow of corruption money had been reduced. The gambling ships were gone. Police reform slowly took hold. The city entered a new era, but for 2 decades, floating casinos lit up the California coast. Thousands of people rode water taxis to ships just beyond the law. Fortunes were made and lost. One man fought the state attorney general for 8 days on the open ocean. Then the lights went dark. The ships disappeared. The water taxis stopped running. The piers grew quiet. The era ended.